As we start tonight's program with Collingwood and the demise of the Pies, Craig McRae almost conceded after the game that this team was in a significant point of evolution.
Now, we lost today and we're right on the edge of being losers. You can lose and still be winners, and we're right on the edge. Nothing's finished. There's no end point right now. And like I've argued, there's no end point for us ever. It's just continuous. We're in this journey of discovery and a new version of us, and this is a different version of us potentially, but maybe we have to go through this to be a better version of us.
The language has changed, and the reality is bitten about how hard it is. Matthew Lloyd and Kane Corns, you've both been in this position on how to back up from a premiership. There was famously a lot of coverage at the start of the year around just how much time they spent reflecting. Has it caught up to them, their off-season, and where do you see them?
They were an old premiership side, but no one could have imagined they'd drop off like this at the start of the season, because I thought they played with such a hunger for each other and there was such a camaraderie amongst them, and I still think they're a connected group, but I thought I'd take a look at the best and fairest last year, Hutchie, of the top 10 and where they're at, and the drop-off. I think Josh Dacos has dropped off a big time. For me, the only two that have enhanced themselves is Nick Dacos and Darcy Cameron this year. The rest of the list hasn't really improved, or they've gone backwards. So Maynard, his numbers are okay there, but I think he's dropped.
That's champion data points.
That's champion data points. Isaac Quaynor was a massive drop-off. Myercheck's had a lot of injuries. Darcy Moore, huge drop-off. DeGoey hasn't been fit enough, and you've had injuries to Pendlebury, Tom Mitchell across the years.
So is that hunger, or is it fitness?
I think it's a combination of everything. Everyone has a different story in that sense, but I think the comp's caught up with them, and they've never really got their best side together.
Yeah, definitely a bit of hunger in it, Hutchie. Like, to see what Hawthorn did, a young group, and as hungry as they were to break the amount of tackles that they did, to out-hunt them at ground level, I just thought that they certainly looked old. They're definitely out of luck. I thought the coach was outfoxed by Sam Mitchell. I thought they were distracted about the Finn McGuinness-Dacos matchup, and that was a distraction in the lead up to this game. Their priorities weren't where they needed to be, and they were found out on Saturday, Sam.
And you use the word hunger. I think that speaks to what Luke Bruce was talking about post-match as well.
I had a really good chat with Nick Dacos there at the end of the game, and he just couldn't believe how we did it consistently in 13, 14, 15. He's like, boy, you're the hunted. It's tough. Being the hunted is hard. We found it difficult at times.
And so much is left to that man, Nick Dacos, and I know why he's asking that question, Sam, is he's as hungry still as anyone. Like, he's not satisfied with one flag, so he's asking the question because that's what he wants. But you'd have to ask some of the others who are 28, 29, 30.
Are we really surprised, Lloydie, that they're sitting here, though? I mean, 8 guys over the age of 30 when they won the premiership. They're fighting tooth and nail to be in the 8. Are you that surprised,
I'm
Kane?
surprised by the drop-off. Because if you look at it at the start
We're talking
of the year,
dynasties.
and you do, and we often get sucked into the reigning premier. But if you don't turn up with the hunger, if your off-season is just a fraction off, you lose a couple of players who have been really important. And I guess the story out of the weekend is Jack Ginnivan, Hutchie, and he joined us on SEN Breakfast back in May, and this was a really interesting quote, particularly in hindsight.
Collingwood's a very structured system, and it's very hard to be a forward at Collingwood. Sometimes there's a few dark days where, you're just wearing the invisible cloak, but at Hawthorn, which has been so great for me. You're allowed to be free and you can go and change over patterns and stuff, where at Collingwood you're stuck on one side and things like that.
So this is the way that they're using their forwards, and he's been crucial to that. And they're all in. Like, Dylan Moore's been the greatest example of this. But look at this, that Ginnivan is allowed to play with his freedom, come up at stoppage. We weren't speaking about his work rate at Collingwood. The most possessions he ever had in a Collingwood jumper was 20, and they're all doing it. And I think Dylan Moore, it's a credit to him that he is demanding this from the rest of his teammate. He's been an incredible leader. But, Lordo, it's been a great lesson for me, because I'm pretty hard on players who aren't as disciplined as I believe that they should be. And Collingwood gave up on Jack Ginnivan, and I can see the reasons for it, but it's a lesson to other clubs. When you've got a talented player who's kicked 40 goals in his second year, and they essentially pigeonholed him to that and then gave up on him, and you go to a club that truly values what you can bring, then that's the result you can get. Now, this is Nick Watson. These are all the small forwards. Ginnivan's involved again, but I just think, imagine if GWS gave up on Toby Green at 21. Imagine if Geelong gave up on,
That's a great point,
on Stevie J after the issues that he has. Of course, you can't be accepting of poor discipline and off-field issues, and you've got to bring them back into line. But at 20 years of age, 21 years of age, Collingwood gave up on him, and it was a stark performance to go, what could have been if they just had a bit more belief in him.
It was an arrogant trade too with Schultz, because they the swap of pick meant that they clearly felt they were going to be a top team, and they clearly thought Hawthorn were going to be a low team.
Yeah,
And
now
that's going to
pick 6.
really hurt them. And then they've clearly been trading as if they're in the window. Like Shiltson's another example of that and Ginnivan out. What do you do with the ageing veteran? So Pendlebury's flagged that he'll play on, most probably. They've got a decision on side bottom. Howe's probably there's a decision. What would you do?
I think you got to stagger it. I think so. Pendlebury, yeah, he's expressed that it's not far away from a contract being extended. So he said weeks away, only on 3AW not long ago. So
you'd retire 1 or 2?
That means, yeah, that I'd be side bottoms most likely. It would be the one, I think, because you've got to stagger it so you don't all go.
And then there's players like Tom Mitchell. I mean, what do you do with Tom Mitchell? Is he going to return and be a key player to your side? Or, is his attributes going to suit the way that you want to play? Jeremy Howe's the other one. And they've got a number over the age of 30. Mason Cox, your man as well, is in that category.
You've been ahead of your time, I think, with the Sam Mitchell commentary. And I know we joke about you calling him a genius, but I was doing radio with Lordy tonight, and the wizard Nick Watson, who was so exciting on the weekend, I was blown away by the revelations that Nick was taken aside one-on-one by Sam Mitchell to fix his goal kicking. Take a listen.
He pulled me aside in his office after the game against Richmond where I kicked 4 behinds, and he sort of said, I'm the only one who can tell you how to kick goals. So everyone at Hawthorn knows that it's only Sam that tells me how to kick goals now. And before every session, we've been out there early, doing routine, working on a bit of everything.
You guys have all been in the game much longer than me. I've never heard of a senior coach working one-on-one with a guy on goal kicking, have you?
I've seen it. And
Mark Williams?
And he was the best I've ever seen. But,
Yep.
but you're right, it is rare to have that. There's delegation that goes on, and Lordo, you could speak to this, but Mark Williams was exactly that. 25 years ago, he was doing that, and he was ahead of his time, and he truly believed in it. The thing with Sam Mitchell, there's been no more skillful player left and right to play the game. So for him to take control, and you've coached goal kicking, and I assume it's distracting when there's multiple voices.
Yeah, that's spot on, and that's where Sam Mitchell's taken control. Everybody else, you are not to speak to.
Well, it's interesting.
If
Like
you get too many voices, it's trouble.
It's become a bit fashionable to be macro as a coach and to manage and to let people do their jobs. And you see in failed seasons, people bring in more assistants, and you get too involved, and you're taking on too much. And he's not only driving coaching, he's driving recruiting. He's hands-on on all the pitches.
What do you think of that as the leader of a huge business?
No, I just love it. I think his name's on the door. He's accountable for what happens. And I love the fact that he's driving the recruiting. Like, you know, why can't you get involved in recruiting? And why can't you be on the phone to players? And, you know, I was probably a little bit dubious on some of these players coming in at the start of the year, Chol among them. Like, he drove Meek hard himself, and he's clearly into battle directly. It's just connecting to players.
Yeah, well, this time last year, we got an insight into how hard he was going for Lloyd Meek, and Meek has changed Hawthorn for the better in that regard. And at the moment, it's Battle and Perryman and these guys. So he's not only doing the hands-on with goal kicking, he's doing the hands-on with getting players to the club. So, you know what? If Sam Mitchell goes down, at least he can say he's done everything his way.